Contact front! What are you shooting at? Don't you have magnification? No, I just have a red dot. Should have brought magnification. Oh man. How's it going, everybody? It is Chris, and as you can probably tell from the thumbnail and the intro video, we are going to be talking about magnified optics. Now, there are a bunch of different types. I have three sort of categories that we're going to cover today. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each and kind of what I really think overall and sort of what the best setup for me has been, and hopefully that will kind of help you decide on your possible purchase here in the future. So the categories that we're going to talk about today are adding a magnifier to your pre-existing rifle. Most of the time this works in conjunction with a red dot or a holographic sight or sometimes a prism sight. We're going to talk about some sort of fixed magnification optic, whether that's a 1.5 to a 4 or 5 or 6, whatever the optic may actually have built into it. And then we're going to talk about low power variable optics or actual scopes getting put on rifles. The first category that we're going to talk about today is magnifiers. Now, magnifiers are a really quick and easy way to add really good capability to your rifle. And the vast majority of people already have a red dot or a holographic sight on their AR-15 or whatever rifle or carbine that you are talking about in your case. And it just allows you to get that quick, easy, and relatively cheap force multiplier on your rifle right away. I would say the biggest benefit is you don't really have to buy a whole bunch. You can just buy the magnifier. Now, choosing the manufacturer and the actual magnification is kind of up to you. So look at what you need, where you might be using this for, and how much you want to spend. On the rifle, I have a Vortex 3x magnifier. It's not horribly expensive, and it's super easy to use. There is a quick detach little mount on there so that you can just put it on and off real quick and easy. And it also is a flip to side. So if I want the 3x magnification, I can use it. If I don't, I can flip it to the side and I can just run my red dot like I normally would. And it works really well. It's really simple to use. I just kind of have to tune it to make sure that it's in line with my red dot, and I'm good to go. So there's a lot of pros. The only kind of cons that I would say is you're stuck at that fixed magnification, and it can be kind of a little clunky or weird to actually use. So that flip to side can kind of get snagged on some things. If you have a flip to center, it's also just kind of bulky. But in reality, there really is no downside that I personally have found, and they work super well. And for the vast majority of people, I think this would be an awesome option. Now, the next category that I'm going to talk about is a fixed magnification optic. So the example that I have in front of me and the example that I'll also have in some B-roll up here is an Acog. So Liam and I both have 4-power Acogs. I have an RMR up on top. He has a red dot on top of his. And I think that we have both found that this is a super awesome solution. So the reason being, especially if you have a top-mounted red dot of some sort on it, is it gives me the ability to have a really good picture downrange at whatever distance that may be, whether that's 100 yards, whether that's 600 yards. Acogs and most of these fixed variable or fixed powered optics rather have a pretty good field of view downrange at whatever you're aiming at. This allows for easier follow-up shots because I can kind of see the splash around it. But they also are fairly light usually and have a really easy attachment method of just screwing right onto the rail. So that's one of the best things about the Acog is I can just screw it on, I zero it, and I'm good to go. And other fixed power magnification optics, like some from Primary Arms, it's the same thing, right? You screw it on, you're good to go, the mount's already built into it, you zero the actual optic itself, and you're all set. Things like Acogs also have different reticles in them, and that reticle is kind of a pro over something like a red dot because I have that magnification, but I also have a sort of semi-rough ballistic calculator where I have different hash marks so I can work on holds or get an idea of probably where I'm going to hit at whatever distance I'm shooting at. So the Acog is kind of this super awesome thing because I have not really found many use cases where this doesn't work well. Even in fairly close positions when we're shooting here at the shop, it allows you to be really precise and accurate once you know your holds at specific distances. It also is a one-stop shop. I can just throw it on the gun, zero it, and I'm good to go. And it's super rugged and durable, so I don't really have to worry about breaking it or anything. Overall, a fixed power optic is really nice. I get the benefits of having something like a magnifier, but I also get a little bit more data, or the availability to use data because of the reticle inside of it. It's also a really easy mounting system because it all just comes with one, and especially when you throw a red dot on top, you're basically golden. The only kind of downside that I have is the overall cost of everything, where these optics can get very pricey very quickly, especially in combination with some sort of red dot. So the next category that I'm going to talk about are variable powered optics, whether that's low power variable optics or just something like a scope. This is a 4-16 from Primary Arms. It is super beneficial in the fact that I can zoom in and zoom out as needed, and that magnification usually is much more than something like a flip to center magnifier or something like a fixed powered optic like an Acog, where I am starting at 4 power and only going up from there. So PID, first round shots, and shooting farther and more precisely is usually a lot easier with something like this. Now, different makes, models, and manufacturers also will have different reticles, and some of these reticles can be really, really beneficial. Things like Christmas tree reticles, where you have little dots to kind of make wind holds a lot easier, or just follow-up shots a lot easier, can really benefit and make your job as a shooter much more pleasant than some of the other options. The biggest downside to this is the fact that it doesn't come in one whole unit, so you'll probably have to either buy some sort of mount or scope rings, and it also can really get heavy as well as expensive, sort of depending on brand and model, but this whole combination can get very expensive very quickly. So this option definitely is much more specific. So if you are shooting long range, or you're designated as the guy to make farther shots, or you're just kind of into shooting a little bit farther, then yeah, this would probably work best for you. The follow-up shots, the different magnification, and just the different options and reticles and mounting systems are all there to really customize it to whatever that you actually need. So with all these different options, there are a lot of questions. What works best for me? What should I get? Is this worth the money? And I would honestly just say, sit down and kind of figure out what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve within your budget. So like I stated before, the vast majority of the people, a fixed magnifier that just flips to the side is going to work really well for the AR-15 that they have at home. It will allow them to shoot a little bit farther, make that process a little bit easier, as well as giving them the ability to perform PID and just get an overall better idea of what they're actually looking or shooting at. Something like a fixed power magnification is really good for people that are trying to kind of have that sort of middle ground. So I might be able to get more magnification, more durability, and a just kind of overall better quality of life, as some people might say, when it comes to a fixed power magnified optic. And then once you toss a red dot or something else on top of it, or in conjunction with it, you can really benefit from both close range engagements or further engagements. And then once you get to the LPVO or actual scopes, you really can get a lot of good data and ability with reticles and mounting systems, options, and overall difference in magnification. You can really benefit from having that if you need that magnification or that sort of detail or fine adjustments. Let's talk a little bit about actually shooting with these optics. So the red dot and magnifier is a really good combination. We've had and used this rifle itself for a long time, and that magnifier can really help you kind of refine some of those slightly longer shots. It also allows you for the ability to make a little bit longer hits out at distance, but you really start to struggle once you're kind of getting past that 300-yard mark. Now, to be fair, we are using a 3-power magnifier, so you can get 4, 5, and 6 times magnifiers, but it's just what we had on hand and what I think the vast majority of models actually offer, and what the vast majority of people are actually running currently. So when we started shooting the Acogs, it got a lot easier, right? So going from 3 to 4 to 5 or plus 100 yards, life got a lot easier because there's a built-in BDC calculator in the actual optic itself. So at 300 yards, once it's zeroed, I put the little hash at 3 on the target, boom, I was making hits. So life becomes much easier, and I can hold a little bit left or right for wind if actually needed when I'm going to about 500 or 600 yards. It also is really nice, especially on something like a 5.56 or 2.23 rifle. There's not much recoil, so the eye relief is not that big of a deal to me, but I would say that if you are shooting something that's bigger, like a 308, yeah, you gotta make sure that you're holding onto that gun so you don't just bop yourself in the forehead. But the glass quality, the ability to see so much downrange, and that little bit of a sort of edge by having that etched reticle really make the Acog or some other version of a fixed magnification optic a really good sort of choice for the vast majority of people too. If you already have a red dot and a magnifier, I'm not really sure that I would say it's worth upgrading, especially because something like an Acog can be pretty pricey for the vast majority of people. But if you have the ability or want to set up a rifle for that sort of mid-range engagement, it's an awesome choice. And lastly, when we talk about LPVOs or scoped carbines or rifles, it really is a use case sort of basis. And what I mean by that is if you need to shoot out farther, so 600, 700, 800 or more yards, then yeah, you would want that magnification, and you probably already want that sort of reticle with hopefully some sort of dots or mills or holds or something for windage, because as you go out farther, especially with a 5.56 or 223, that round is going to move in the air and especially get blown around once you start actually going pretty far out there. It also kind of makes life a little bit easier to hit things when you're closer, obviously, right? If I can get 5 or 6 power magnification instead of a fixed 4 or 3, well, that makes my life a little bit easier because the target is bigger in my optic and I can make sort of those correcting shots a little bit faster and a little bit easier. But once again, there's so many different options and reticles and variables that it can be kind of overwhelming to choose, which makes something like a 3x magnifier or a fixed power optic that much more enticing. All these different optic setups are really good in their own way. So it's kind of up to you to figure out what you exactly want to use it for, why you're looking at magnified optics in general, and then figure out your price range and what you need it to do, and then you can kind of go from there. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Stop by in store, hang out, come to our weekly shooting events. Check out our link in the description for merch. We've got some sick hoodies, t-shirts, hats, all that kind of stuff. We would love to see you guys repping us. Make sure to follow us on our other social media, that being Facebook and Instagram, also linked down below. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.